All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Online Sangha. So today we'll have a live Q&A. So usually every Tuesday and Thursday we'll do sitting, a little bit of chanting and a reading. But today we'll do a live Q&A. So if you have any questions about meditation, Zen, practice, Quantum School of Zen, online Sangha, many people are doing heart kilche. And for those who don't know, there's a kilche happening in a few places. So kilche is in the Quantum School of Zen are 3-month retreats. Right now it's happening in the winter. So Providence Zen Center, I believe, they're on their 5th week of this 3-month retreat. And Europe is on their 4th week of this retreat. So many people in the online Sangha have been doing a heart kilche. So we found out that a lot of people can't attend these 1-week retreats or 2-week or up to 3 months. So they're doing something at home, doing some extra practice and making an effort to support kilche and support the Sangha. And it's been really, to me, very inspiring to see all the commitments made on the Quantum Online Sangha Facebook page. People have been making their commitments and it's been great to see. So anyways, if you have a question, you can type it in the chat below. Please tell us where you're from. We see got a few people here. Zachary from Ohio. Maxim's in. Hello. Last week we had an audio problem. I'm assuming that's fixed. I can see that everything's working good. If it is, let me know. Yeah, I just got back from Providence Zen Center a little over a week ago. I led one of the weeks there. And it's a very amazing place to practice. If anybody has a chance to ever make it to the Providence Zen Center, I highly recommend it, especially for sitting retreat. There was a handful of people sitting the whole thing, which was really nice to see. I think of all the places I practice around the world, I think Providence just has a really good supportive environment. I remember my teacher used to say that the monastery there is like a mother's arms. It's very safe and has very good energy if you put it into don't know. Zachary has the first question. Who are you? My name's Jason. If you didn't miss that, it's also in the description below. Any other questions? So for me, the retreat was really well. You know, I travel most of the time once a month going somewhere to lead a retreat. And many of the times I'm spending most of my day in the interview room talking to people. So going to Providence Zen Center was a little break for me, which is great. So that there's at least 3 days where I could just sit. And the other days were lots of talking. You're welcome. So how is heart kilche going for everybody? Any problems? I see some people I haven't seen before. Welcome. And there's some people who usually come that I'm not seeing. Hello, Adam. Good to see you. Douglas, Master SS, and I'm assuming that's Sung Sang, says correct meditation means understanding true self. Can you talk about that? Yes, so as you probably know, there's many different styles of meditation. And there's also many different reasons for doing meditation. So I live in the Silicon Valley, in the South Bay area in California. So a lot of people are using meditation to improve their workflow, maybe to gain more focus. Some people will use it to improve their golf swing or something like that. So many of the times meditation can be, it's a gaining practice. If I do this, this, and this, I will get this. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for all of that. We can all improve into many other things. But when Zen Master Sung Sang said correct meditation, and correct meaning if you do any kind of meditation for a gaining idea, that's not good or bad, but it just has a natural result. If you don't get it through that practice, then you're disappointed. If you do get what you want from that practice, that's okay, but the problem is you can never keep it because nothing stays the same. There's no way you can keep it. Or usually the third, a lot of us fit in, is we get that thing what we want, but it's not enough, we want more, or we wish it was a little bit different, right? So there's a cycle here that never ends. Actually, the Buddha talked about that. He called that grasping, right? Grasping leads to suffering. So when Zen Master Sung Sang said correct meditation, he meant that if you do meditation, you will see that already you have everything. So a lot of the times people want clarity or strength, maybe some kind of stillness of the mind. Already we have that inside. It's not like we get something and it's going to give it to us. Meditation is the tool to help us access it, that we already have it. So correct meditation means returning to what we already have. So what we're doing is letting go of everything. And mainly what's hindering us is this grasping, right? And we don't even know what it is that is grasping. So if we investigate that with a question like, what is this thing that wants something? What is this I? What is it that wants? Just very curiously, very sincerely. Then we come to the place where we don't know. And we return to the place to don't know, then we see that already the clarity is here. Already the strength is here. Trazamin, if I'm saying that right. I don't understand the concept of karma and no self. Doesn't that contradict itself? So when we talk about karma in Buddhism, so karma just means cause and effect, right? So if I take water and turn it up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, it has a natural result, right? It boils. So when we talk about karma in Buddhism, it's usually we're talking about mind habit, right? So everything we do or say has a natural result. It's not good karma or bad karma, it's just karma. So usually we're controlled by this karma. We're controlled by our mind habits. So the other side of that is if there's no self, or what we say before thinking, then there's no karma. So this is where it gets very interesting. So I like to use the, it's a little statement about the Buddha, right? So before Buddha started practicing meditation, he was very attached to name and form, just like all of us. Then supposedly he perceived the morning star, attained enlightenment. He realized his enlightenment. He was no longer attached to name and form. Then he got up from the tree and for 49 years used name and form to help others. So there's 3 points there. Attachment to name and form, no name and form, using name and form. So regarding karma, Zen Master Sung Sang would say, are you using your karma to help other people, or is your karma using you? So that's a very interesting statement, right? He's not talking about getting rid of karma, and he's not talking about attaching to karma. He's talking about using your karma to help others. So our style of practicing means perceive our karma clearly. So that means when we perceive it, we perceive the true nature of the karma, this cause and effect, these mind habits, then we're no longer attached to it. Then it's possible that we can use it to help. So we're not making bad karma to good karma or no karma. We're just perceiving our mind, perceiving our true self. When we can perceive that, then we can use it. So when we really look at this concept of I, we perceive that it really doesn't exist. We create it with our own mind. But when we see that clearly, we can use that in a helpful way. So here's two statements. I hate you. That has a direction, right? And some energy. And here's another statement. How may I help you? That also has a direction and some energy. So it's not good or bad. It's how do you use it? So it's very important to experience this mind before thinking so we can perceive karma clearly. If we do that, naturally we won't be attached to it. Then it's possible to use it to help others. Zachary, how to deal with the lack of confidence? You know, to me, there's two types of confidence. There's self-confidence, and there's this, I'm not even sure how to say it. There's self-confidence and true confidence. Maybe that's the way to say it. So this self-confidence is a never-ending battle, right? It's never satisfied. It's either satisfied, then it's not satisfied. But there's something before that. So I think a good example would be in 2006, I did a 90-day solo retreat. So 90 days. I had my teacher write the schedule. And in the schedule, he had me doing 1,000 prostrations a day. That's a lot. You know, in our school, we do 108 in the morning, for morning practice and at retreats. So he had me doing 1,000, which was, it seemed undoable at the time. So day number 3 into this 90-day retreat, I was bowing, and everything was hurting. My body was hurting, legs were hurting, my mind was hurting. It was a very difficult third day. And then, of course, the calculator mind starts going, right? So I'm thinking, all right, day number 3, and this is all while I'm bowing. Day number 3 means that there's 87 days left. So already that was like, oh my God, 87 days. And then if I'm doing 1,000 bows a day, that means 87,000 more bows to do. So when I heard that number, I got into this, I can't do this. So we've all been to that place, right? I can't. But the other side of the coin of I can is I can. So this is where self-confidence is. So I started saying to myself, oh, I can do this. I sat a lot of 3-month retreats with people and a lot of experience. I can do this, right? So I'm getting this self-confidence. In fact, back in the 80s and 90s, they had a lot of self-help tapes that just emphasizes I can do it. I am strong. I will conquer, right? The problem with that is it really doesn't believe it because I doesn't even exist. So the opposite of I can is I can't. So while I'm bowing, now I'm going back to I can't. Then I went back to I can. I can't. And then that was the struggle. Then at some point, both I can and I can't disappeared. And don't know appeared. Meaning, if we look at it very sincerely, and this is what I was doing at that time was, I don't know if I can do this. Don't know if this is possible to finish. But this bow is possible. Then I went down and got up. Then this bow is possible. Got down, then I got up. And with that mind, that's how I finished the retreat. So this is where true confidence comes in, right? Zen Master Sun Song called it just do it mind. That if we put all of our energy into this moment, then it's possible to do it. So we have a choice there. We can play with I can and I can't, or we can just let that go and really go into don't know and put all our energy in don't know. Then everything is clear. Then the strength comes automatically. Then we can respond to situations no matter how challenging or difficult they are. Yoroslav, I'm sorry. Are you having, I guess you're having trouble seeing the video. Subi, welcome. A lot of sayings in Zen imply negation and ambivalence. For instance, no good, no bad, no before, no after. Can you elaborate on this? Thanks. Yeah. So no good and no bad, no before, no after. This is the world of opposites thinking. And if you look at it, opposites thinking does not exist. Human beings make that. I think Shakespeare even said that good and bad does not exist, but thinking makes it so. He wasn't even Buddhist, but he understands this very simple concept that this opposites thinking is made by us. And it starts with I. So if we create the sense of I, that means there has to be a you. So already this whole universe is divided. I, you. Now we have good, bad, right, wrong, before, after, like, dislike. The problem with that is if we spend too much time in this opposites thinking, then we miss the truth that's right in front of us. So I always say that our original mind is like a clear mirror. It just reflects everything exactly as it is. The problem is we cover this mirror with opposites thinking. Good, bad, right, wrong, like, dislike, love, hate, white, black, Democrat, Republican, goes on and on and on. Now, this mirror cannot no longer perceive clearly what's in front of us, right? It's just my view, my opposites view. So I have my view, you have your view, everybody has their view. And we get into deeper trouble when we mistake the truth, we mistake this view for the truth, right? Since we see the world with this lens, this filter, we believe it's the truth. So now I understand truth and my truth is correct. And this is how we get into so much conflict and fighting in every part of the world. And as you know, you can just turn on the news and see this. So what Zen teaches is to take away, just even for a second, take away this opposites thinking world, right? And just see something for what it is. So Zen Master Sung Sung would say, sky is blue, tree is green, right? He didn't say, sky is blue, I don't like blue, I like it when it's a little bit cloudy, or I like it when the leaves are orange, right? This is usually what how our mind works, right? We see the color of somebody's skin and we automatically make something of it. So there's a saying in Zen, don't add legs to a snake, right? The snake is already complete, but we're always doing that. We're always adding extra stuff to the truth, which creates suffering. Why? Because again, the clouds are our original clarity and we can't see what's in front of us clearly. And when we can't see what's in front of us clearly, we don't know how to respond in a clear way. That's why we make a mess of our lives usually. So Zen means take away this opposites thinking and see truth. So yeah, you see the sky, just blue. You see the tree, just green. So we're coming back to what's true, not to what we make. So that's what's important. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to have an opposites thinking mind. It just means we perceive the nature of it. We know that it's made up. So it's okay if I have an opinion, I understand it's an opinion. It has nothing to do with truth. That way I'm not attached to it and I'm not fighting people over it. Hirokun, I once read a story of a lady who was enlightened when she was very young, and when she was old, her favorite grandchild died, and during the grandchild's funeral, she cried terribly. Someone commented that her Zen is no longer working, and she said something to the extent that her tears will bring this grandchild straight to heaven. Why is that so? So there's one thing we kind of we miss when we're practicing anything, to be honest, any kind of practice or religion, is we forget that there is this human condition, right? So as long as we're human beings, there's going to be thinking and emotion. You can't get rid of that unless you do a different style of practice. but we can talk about that at a different time. So one thing we don't see clearly is this, our human beings' connection with the rest of this universe. So Zen Master Seungsang would often say, everything in this universe understands its job, but human beings don't. So it makes us the #1 stupid animal. And that's kind of funny, right? Because we don't see everything is connected. So if we really look around this universe, everything understands its job, right? The sun understands what's to do, the trees understand what's to do, the rain understands what's to do. Even animals understand their job, right? So it's pretty amazing that when spring comes, every time I'm here in California, you see spring comes and then the flowers starts to bloom, the grass starts to turn green, right? There's this natural connection that everything has. So we've heard the saying before, everything's one, right? And it sounds like a spiritual idea, but it's kind of like a bicycle, right? We see a bicycle, it's just one thing. But if we take a close look at it, it has many different parts that's connected. And it's all working together, right? And if you take off any of these parts, that bicycle has a problem. If you take the chain off, it has a problem. If you take the wheel off, it has a problem. If you take the steering wheel off, it has a problem. So human beings, we don't see our connection with the rest of this world because we make separation. Then we cause suffering, right? So we disconnect from this, the rest of the world, and that's what creates so many problems in this world. So we have to come back to the mind before thinking. The mind before thinking doesn't have I or you, doesn't have human being or this universe. It doesn't have anything. And from this place, we can see the nature of human being, right? We see that there is this body. There is this thinking. There also is this emotion. How can we use it to help the rest of this world, right? The rest of this connection. So that's very important. So once a monk came to Zen Master Seungsang, right before Zen Master Seungsang died, and was talking about old age, sickness, and death. So the monk asked, Daisansenim, how can we avoid or escape old age, sickness, and death? And Zen Master Seungsang yelled at him, we are old age, sickness, and death. And this comes back to, how do we use our karma to help other people rather than our karma using us? So usually emotions and thinking are always pulling us around, right? We try to chase something and we lose it, so we start crying, right? That's how we are. But there's something bigger than that. So in the story you're referencing is that this woman is using this cry to help all beings. It's not just for me, it's for all beings to wake up. And you know, Kwan or Kwan Yin, who's the Bodhisattva of compassion, perceived the cries of the world and woke up. So that's what this story is pointing to, which means that we have to first perceive our mind before thinking, right? The mind before Zen, the mind before Buddhism, the mind before human being, the mind before like and dislike, and I and you, the mind before thinking. Then when we perceive that clearly, then we can see that there is this human body, there is thinking and emotion. How do we use that moment to moment to help this world? And it's an interesting comment. You said someone commented that a Zen is no longer working. Zen does not work. I keep telling people that. Meditation is not the thing that's doing anything. We are the ones that are doing something. It's just a tool, right? A hammer can't build a house, right? Someone takes a hammer and builds a house. So we have to make that clear too. Zen does not do anything. We are the ones that are doing something. So again, I've said this earlier, is we're returning to what's already here. And we're using Zen or meditation as a tool to return to what we already have. We have it. So it's not it's working or not working. We're not working. You're welcome. Any other questions, comments, observations? Oh, the whole world's a single flower is here. It always has been here. Hello. Welcome. And also, Douglas, you're welcome. See some people popping in here and commenting. One penny. Hello. Sabrina, you're welcome. Whole world's a single flower. I'm thinking you're asking, how do you define awakening and enlight? It says W, but I'm going to guess enlightenment. So how do you define awakening and enlightenment? What's the difference? So the easiest way to explain that is you're asking a question, I'm answering. So that has awakening and enlightenment, right? So the Buddha said that all the different styles of practicing, and you can say words, the different types of Buddhism, even religion. So in the sutra he said all those different types of words and practicing and religions are like many different fingers pointing to the moon. If we're attached to the finger, we cannot see the moon. So that's very important. You know, the Dalai Lama once said, if you want to attain, or if you want to understand all of the religions and practices, first attain your own. He didn't say understand your own, attain your own. So that's very interesting. So we got to be careful about the finger, right? We have to see what it's pointing to. Zen Master Sung Song was always brilliant about that. So when he was in the Zen centers, he would say, you must become one with Buddha, understand your Buddha nature, and use that to help the world. Then when he went to the Christian monasteries, he said, you must understand God. Understand your God nature and use that and help the world. So that was interesting too, right? He was just changing the words around. Sabrina, will this Q&A be available to refer back to after the live session ends? So if you're part of the online Sangha, I do have a link to that, and there's some previous ones too before this. And information about becoming a member of the online Sangha is down below. You could also go to quantumzen.org/online for more info. Hirokuna, how do you get your kids interested in practicing? I enjoyed your video of your kids doing Kwanzaa Bosa chanting with you. Yeah, so I posted on the online Sangha Facebook page. My wife and myself and my 5.5-year-old and almost 2-year-old, but 1.5-year-old, doing this chanting we did for New Year's. And you know, I don't even know how that came about. I think that was my wife's idea. So I'm usually not so interested in teaching them specifically about meditation or practice at this time. What I'm more interested in is how do I live the practice, or how do I do meditation when I'm interacting with them, right? You've heard many times, right? Some Zen teachers, kids think they're full of shit just because they talk about love and compassion, but at home they're it's another story. So and I know too, as when I was a kid, especially when I got older, is anything my parents said to me, I did the opposite or tried to think the opposite, right? So I thought more important, again, at this stage is how do I demonstrate meditation to them moment to moment? Because it's very challenging. I find it is always challenging, especially because you care about them, right? And a lot of anger can appear. But if it's directed, it can be clear. So my wife, however, will sometimes she'll sit at night and then she'll invite my oldest son to sit with her. And a lot of that has to do with, he was born and raised, or at least his first year and a half, at the Gate Zen Center. That's where he learned to walk. That's where he learned to talk. So he in his consciousness knows about practice, right? He was always around chanting. He used to, I remember, pick up the Mok Talk and do just Kwan Bosa chanting by himself, even though he didn't know the words, but he did it. But that had to do with conditioning, right? With my daughter, Ella, she was not born in the Zen Center. She has no connection about it. Plus, she's very young. Doesn't matter. So I think to get kids interested in practicing, my opinion is to demonstrate the practice and then tell them. It's kind of like what Zen Master Sung Song said about helping people. He said there's 4 different ways to help people. The first is to give them what they need or want. The second is to encourage them, say good things, right? Inspire them. But the third, he said, is important, is to teach the Dharma. But he said most people don't care and don't want to listen to what you have to say, right? If you look at, usually with family members or something, you'll find this a lot. So then he said, then you have to do the 4th style of helping people, which is together action. And I've always found that the best way to teach meditation. So when I first started practicing, I immediately was going to become a monk, do the training, and pretty much after maybe several months, and I did my first 3-month retreat in Korea. So when I called my parents up and told them about it, they were blown away, shocked, right? First of all, they didn't even know what Zen meditation was, let alone going on a 3-month retreat in silence in Korea, and also becoming a monk. Like, what's all of that stuff, right? So I knew they were very worried. That's a parent's job, right? They were very concerned about what I was doing. So after all of that retreat, I would visit them at least once a year. And then when I would visit them, I knew that anything I would say would distance myself from them, because in the back of their mind, they're very worried. My dad actually said, don't let them brainwash you. So I knew that if I tried to defend whatever I was doing, it wasn't going to work. So I didn't. So when I visited them, I never talked about meditation or Zen. All I did is did everything they wanted to do. So if my dad cooked whatever kind of meal, this big meal, I just ate whatever he made. My mom liked to go out to blues clubs, listen to music, and drink beer. I just did that. I just followed what she liked to do. And that created this kind of connection, right? This bond. And then they were like, huh, that's not so crazy. Then every year that I'd visit, I would do the same thing, this together action. And then slowly they would say, every year they would notice something different and say, I know, I'm noticing something different every time I see you. And then few years later after that, they actually started asking me about practice. What is Zen? What is meditation? I remember my mom was raised Catholic, right, and went to the Catholic high school, and she started wondering about God. Why would God send her children to hell? She goes, I love you and your brother. I would never send you to hell. Why? So I think that's important to know that I think it's better to actually do together action and demonstrate the practice. Then people will come and ask. All right, the whole world's a single flower. How is it possible to do meditation even when we are slept? I'm guessing you mean sleeping. I mean, how can this awareness work in an aware way? So meditation just means perceiving the moment as it is and then responding to that. So there's nothing special about that. When we perceive the hunger inside us, we eat. When we perceive the hunger in someone else, we give them food. When we perceive tiredness, we sleep. So it means doing everything 100%. So simply, and this is said a lot in our school, is when you're hungry, eat, when you're tired, sleep. That is meditation. That is Zen. Solitary Sea, welcome. What is the best strategy to master the emotions, such that the conscious mind is in charge of the emotions and not the other way around? Is it detachment, suppression, or diversion? Good question. And that's kind of a pitfall we all fall into. So lately I've been taking Zen Master Sung Song's analogy of a backseat driver, but expanding it just to clarify it much more. Usually when we're driving a car, there's this backseat driver, right? That's our kind of habitual ongoing chatter in the mind. So most of the time we're following it, right? That means we're controlled by our karma, right? Controlled by thinking and feeling. So the backseat driver says turn right, we turn right. Backseat driver says turn left, we turn left. Backseat driver says go straight, we go straight. Always following it. Then what I notice is when people start some kind of meditation or spiritual practice, they're trying to use their practice to tell the backseat driver to shut up. So they're driving the car, backseat driver is talking, and we say, shut up. The problem is the backseat driver gets louder and stronger, right? No one likes to be told to shut up. So that doesn't work either. That's where suppression comes in, like trying to get rid of something that we're not comfortable with. But our practicing means that when we're driving, our job is to focus and put all of our energy into what's in front of us and respond to that. So the backseat driver is always going to talk. The difference is this time when it's talking, we say, the backseat driver says, turn right. And you say, thank you very much. And you turn left. So you're responding to what's in front of you. We're not responding to this karma or these mind habits. So I think that's very important to distinguish, right? That distinguishes attachment and then like shoving things away. So when I teach meditation instruction, I always say use the practice to let everything come and go. Don't hold on to it. Most of us understand that. But also don't push it away. So any kind of thinking and feeling, we just perceive it as it is. I'm not sure why we're so uncomfortable with thinking and feeling, right? When we're sitting, we hear birds chirping or a car goes by, it's no problem. The thinking and emotion is no different from that. It's just the truth. It appears and then disappears. Car comes, car goes. Dog barks, then the sound goes away. Thinking and emotion appear, then it disappears if we're not touching it. Then we're completely free, right? The Sixth Patriarch talked about that a lot. Is if you, true practice is if you can let your mind go anywhere with no hindrance. To try to get rid of something is an error. Alexander, would you mind explaining Tathata, suchness, and maybe give an example of it? So the time here is 6:39 Pacific Standard Time. So as I said earlier, all the different styles of practice and the words are pointing to something. It's like pointing to the moon. So very important is not attached to the finger. So it's, you know, it's interesting if we look at music, we study music and understand the theory, but that's not how music originally created, right? Music was an expression that appeared, right? So our true self, this enlightenment nature, is being expressed. But because we're so disconnected from this original nature, or true self, then we're looking for it outside of ourselves. And I'm not saying reading is bad, because I think reading is very good to encourage us to do some practicing. But if we're just reading just for understanding, that's just like a musician who understands a lot of theory, but is not able to play with music. So, and that's where we can do both, right? So I had a friend who was a musician, who was a jazz musician, and he studied theory, but he said that all of that stuff is just under his fingertips when he's actually playing with a band, a jazz band, that he says that he becomes one with what they're doing, meaning that he's responding to what he is hearing, not responding to just theory. So that's why it's important for some experience of what all of this stuff, so we can explain it to others, right? So back in the old days, in 1972, in the early 70s, I would say, that many people at the time never heard of kimchi. So Zen Master Seung Song would always talk about kimchi and how it's made, right? You take Napa cabbage, you throw some salt in it, dry out the moisture, mix it with hot pepper paste. You can put in other vegetables. Most important is you put it in a jar and you ferment it. You can ferment it from 3 days to 3 years, depending how stinky you like it. So he would say after it's done fermenting, you open it up and it has a strange smell, right? Many people don't like the smell so much. But when you taste it, it's a completely different experience, right? It's crunchy, different taste, but also very spicy. So then he said, now you understand kimchi. If you want to, he said, you can go to the library. These days we can just Google it and understand different types of kimchi, how different cultures make it, different fermentation processes, all of that stuff. Finally, Zen Master Seung Song would say, now you understand kimchi, but have you attained it? Usually people would say no. He said, well, how would you attain it? You go to the Korean market, buy some kimchi, put it in your mouth, and then boom, the experience becomes yours. So that means the understanding, the experience come together, and that's what we call wisdom. So I would recommend always is use that question. So what is it in our everyday life, our true self, right? What is it? And experience it. Then it becomes yours and it'll be very clear. The best. Most of your answers are the power of now. I'm not even sure if it's the power of now, but what else is there than now? It's an interesting question, right? We spend a lot of our time thinking about things that do not exist, past and future. We're stuck in the past. Usually what comes out of that is anger, sadness, and grief. And then when we spend most of our time in the future, what comes out of that is fear and anxiety, right? Those are our options. And when we think about our life, it's not our life. It's just our idea about our life, right? So now I think is the only time there is. There's the only time you can practice. The only time you can wake up is right now. It's not going to even happen 5 minutes ago, and it's not going to happen 5 minutes from later. I remember my teacher, when we lived in Providence Zen Center, people would talk about their enlightenment experience that they had. And he said, that's really great. So where's your enlightenment experience now, right? Most of the time, probably all the time, no one can answer. All right, I think that's it. We're at 6:45, unless there's any last questions. There's a lot of good questions today. So for those who don't know, we practice every Tuesday and Thursday at, every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can just bookmark this link that you're looking at now and show up on those days, and I'll always have information on the next session on there. Oh, there's our bell. So thank you everyone for joining. If you have a question I didn't get to, there's an email link down below. You can email me. If you haven't already, if you want to join the online Sangha, there's information down below. You can just go to quantumzen.org/online if you want to type it in and go there. I think the online Sangha has been a really great addition to our school. We've been finding that there have been many people in locations that